What it do, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I'm very excited. We're going to be talking about quite a few beauty disappointments that I had in 2022. So I'm not going to say these are fails because they're not necessarily fails. They just disappointed me for one reason or another. Some things will be getting decluttered, some things will be getting thrown in the trash, etc, etc. But overall, like I said, these just disappointed me personally because they didn't give what I wanted them to give fully. So that's really the topic of today's video. If you're wondering about my makeup look, I attempted to film. I don't know how well the filming went, and I low-key didn't like the first look, so I took it off. And we're with today's look. I don't really know how I feel about today's look either, but I will have all of the items down below. And because it is Christmas Eve, I decided to use the Christmas Eve palette today. And for the actual shades, in the event that you care, in my crease, I have Softly. Then on my lid, I combined two metallics. I have Felting Time and Silvery Dream. And then inner corner, I have just pretty much Silvery Dream. So that's what today's look is all about. Like I said, it is Christmas Eve, and I did want to kind of celebrate it in a way with this particular palette. Really been enjoying these palettes, but I'm not going to harp on too much. Everything else will be down below for you all that is on my face, so do stay tuned. But yeah, Merry Christmas Eve. If you celebrate Christmas, if you celebrate if you celebrate Kwanzaa or Hanukkah, I hope you're enjoying your holidays with those as well, and any other holiday that you may be celebrating at this time. I hope you are enjoying it. I hope that you were able to spend some time, regardless of the length of time, with family or friends or just anybody that you love. I really hope that you were able to find some time to do that. With that said, let's just go ahead and get into some of these disappointments.
Santa Claus is the black man. Santa Claus is the black man, and his hands like my daddy too. Santa Claus is the black man. Santa Claus is the black man, and I found out. That's why I'm telling you.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, a majority of these products are going to be eyeshadow palettes. That is a majority of the things that I like to test out and just get new impressions on every year. Let's leave those to the end. Let's start off with kind of the other products. Now, there may be some things that I forget to talk about in this video. This video has been something that I've started to kind of prepare for about a couple of days ago, and I've just been slowly putting things into my basket. But like I said, sometimes you forget about certain things, and as I talk, if I remember something, I will grab it and talk about it. So I do a fairly good job, I believe, at really making sure that if I'm gonna buy a fragrance, I either know it's a risky purchase or whatever have you. And this fragrance in particular, I did pick it up knowing it was going to be a risky purchase, but I was so curious. So I had to pick it up, and this is from Ellis Brooklyn. This is Vanilla Milk. Now, I picked this up after Lauren Mae Beauty's review, so I already knew that she didn't enjoy it, and we do tend to have a very similar enjoyment when it comes to the scents that we enjoy. And so I kind of knew I wouldn't like this, hence the travel size. And this is just a weird scent. It's a weird scent. There is, I feel, a very strong milk note. I wouldn't say this gives you a lactonic feel. I feel this literally has a milk note, which is different. You're really going to get a lot more milk on your body than like a lactonic note, which just, in my opinion, smells creamy. It makes the scent creamy and full bodied, whereas this, you quite literally smell the milk and the vanilla, and there is some musk in there as well, which I really thought that musk was going to be something that pushed this overboard for me personally to love. The musk and the vanilla, I thought, okay, with that and then a splash of some lactonic, I would be fine. No, I think the milk really just disturbs this completely. Now, don't get me wrong, I think I can get use out of this, but it is quite literally a disappointment because I thought that I was going to enjoy this more. I haven't gotten a lot of use out of it, and that's disappointing, right? So For me, this is just a disappointment. I definitely think there are people out there that can enjoy this type of scent. And of course, compared to your body chemistry, this could definitely be something that it smells really good. I wouldn't say this smells bad on my body chemistry, but like, it's not a love. It's not a love, which is a disappointment for me. So yeah, that is why it's in this video. Next disappointment for me is another kind of scented product, and then we will run into the makeup. This is just, I was so excited. So $10 candle from Target, and this was a collaboration with a bunch of like cereal brands. So there was like Trix, Cocoa Puffs, maybe Fruit Loops. I don't remember the other ones. As you can see, I only bought one because I told myself, buy one, see if you enjoy it, and if you do, you can buy the rest pretty much, right? So, no. I immediately burned this. As you can see, I've literally only burned this once, and it smelled like burning milk. Burning milk. And don't get me wrong, okay? I can pretty much get through any candle. I've had candles in the past that I did not enjoy. I actually have a very interesting one on right now. It's like the chocolate pumpkin s'mores candle. Very, very interesting. I picked that up at Kohl's. I really do enjoy it. I actually ended up picking up 2 on accident, but not too mad at it. So I can enjoy a very unique noted candle. I mean, I've had some unique notes, but when you have a candle that smells like burning milk, I don't think there's any justification around that. I literally can't get around that smell. Like I said, I burned it once. I think I burned it for maybe 30 minutes and I turned it off immediately. Turned it off. Haven't burned it since. I've had this in my I've had this here for months now, and I don't know what to do with it. I genuinely think this is going to be a throwaway, or maybe I will do, there's like a trend I've seen where people like warm up the candle, they get rid of the rest of the wax, and then they like repurpose the glass. And I don't want to necessarily like waste the whole kit and caboodle. So maybe I will try that, because this is just a no. And I don't want to even give the opportunity for a friend to torture themselves that way. And honestly, I don't know who would want to purchase that. So that is somehow going to be hopefully recycled in my room. I could always use another brush, cup or something to that effect. And I actually like the glass. The glass and the decoration is cute. That's a vibe. But for $10, I wouldn't even tell you to buy that candle for $1. It was an extreme disappointment. If there was anything in this whole video that I would say is an actual fail, that like nobody can get any use out of it, it's that candle. It's that candle. Okay, 2 sponges that I did not like. I've talked about both of these sponges literally in my last roundup of products for 2022. First of all, Rare Beauty sponge. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would not even buy this for my worst enemy. No. The pores, you can literally see the pores. And you see, I don't care about this sponge because I literally didn't even clean it. I didn't even clean it before I throw it away. No, ma'am. So let me see if I can on this. You see the actual pores of the actual sponge. When that is seen on a sponge, you know that the sponge is going to absorb a lot of product. And for a lot of people that actually use sponges, right? We use sponges because we like how it gives a like more natural finish. It will absorb some product, right? Which is good, but it actually lays the product down a little bit more of like a natural finish. And you get a little bit more of a like natural satin sheen to the skin as well, depending on the product. Like if you use like a matte foundation and you use it with a sponge, generally you'll get more of like a satin finish in the end, or like a skin-like finish than like that matte, whereas you would get more of that matte finish if you use a brush. Okay, so I always love using my sponges because I just prefer a more I prefer just a more natural skin-like finish, especially with my base. This did not provide me that. This stole my foundation. It stole my foundation, and it took me a little while to find out, like, and it steals it and it absorbs it in such a weird pattern where like some of it is really absorbed in one corner and then the other corner it's not necessarily absorbed. So it was just, Another terrible sponge. This, another one where I actually could low-key see myself giving this one to my worst enemy because it looks deceiving, right? So let's zoom in again. On this sponge, right, you don't see the pores. So like my enemy wouldn't know that this is a bad sponge. But once you wet it and you prepare it to go on your face, sis, honey, iced tea, child, the product gets extra absorption. And I don't understand why these bad sponges are still being made in 2022. We have microfiber sponges at this point. Who has time to be making bad normal sponges? I did get this from Five Below, okay? And I did get like 6 sponges for $5. I get it. I really, really do. But those Paw sponges that people get from, what is that brand? They get it from some website and they're only like $1, okay? And they get like sets of them, okay? I get my e.l.f. sponges from either Ulta, Target, wherever. So you can make a decent sponge for an affordable price. So I don't understand either of those sponges. I don't understand how they got through marketing. I don't understand how they got through the testing phase. It just does not make any sense to me. And no, fails all around. Those 3 products, fails, complete fails. Okay. Let's get into some makeup. Now, some disappointments, true disappointments, are these Odens eyeliners. Now, I did pick these up like everybody else once this collection became available. This is a part of the Salmon 2 collection. So they had those blushes, they had the highlighters, they had the eyeshadow palette, and then they had these. I think that was the whole collection, if I remember correctly. Now, pretty much everybody that got this collection in PR pretty much said that the liners weren't all that, but you know, you can make them work or whatever. And I found that they were accurate. These liners don't stay in the waterline, or even, in my opinion, catch in your waterline unless you immediately clean your waterline with like a Q-tip or whatever have you, and then immediately apply it. And that way I was able to get these not only on my waterline, but I saw that they actually lasted for a decent amount of time. But it's a disappointment. I don't feel like I should have to do all of that just to get something to go into my waterline. I have LA Girl liners that I absolutely love. I literally almost always wear my black LA Girl liner. I literally have it in my waterline. I have it in tight line, and I did do like a little faux wing with that particular liner that I always love to smudge. Absolute love. That was like maybe $2. And I had no problem. I don't have to clean my waterline. I don't have to clean my lid or anything weird like that. So for me, these are disappointments because I have to go through extra steps to make it work. And I don't feel like I should have to do that with any form of liner, period. So absolutely love the colors. I got a white and I got a green. And if you're wondering, the green is in 006 and the white is in 011. I really love the colors, and that's why they've stayed in my collection right now. I don't know how long they're going to stay, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think they're worth it. I wouldn't say go get them, but if you do end up getting them, and if you do already have them in your collection, there is a way to make them work. I would just, like I said, say take a Q-tip or something to clean out that waterline really quickly, and then immediately put the liner on, and it should apply. At least for me, that's how I got these to work. Another eye product that, like, it was a disappointment is this from Clarity Cosmetics. Now, unfortunately, pretty much everything that I picked up in this particular haul from this brand, I did not enjoy. So I haven't gone back to purchase anymore because it just doesn't seem like me and the brand's formulations really get along. So this is their foiled eyeshadow and glitter primer. And I picked this up because I really wanted an independently owned glitter liner or primer to replace my NYX, because don't get me wrong, I think the NYX is really, really good. It's quite small but effective, but I would love to have like a independently owned favorite for each category of makeup that I apply. And so that's really why I picked this up. This is a black owned brand. So I was so excited to support somebody who, you know, they created their own brand and they're doing it. I feel like a lot of people really support this brand, but this just did not work for me. I did not find that there was any real difference when I put this on my lid and when I didn't put it on my lid for any of my foiled or metallics. And with my NYX, you can clearly see that evolution of that metallic once you've put the NYX glitter glue down. So for me, it's not a very good glitter primer. Eyeshadow primer, I think it's fine, right? So I think that is why I'm going to be able to keep this in my collection, because I can use this. It is just a disappointment because I bought it for a particular purpose and it's not going to be able to fulfill that purpose. And so that's really where the disappointment came for this particular product. But like I said, there were other products that I picked up from the brand, and I picked up 2 of their blushes. So this year for me, I really enjoyed the extension of these smaller indie brands when they came to their cheek products. And so every so often I would try to pick up some of these cheek products from the brands. Particularly in that same order, I picked up 2 blushes from Clarity. One is in Rude Nude and the other one is in Honey Mustard. Now I've really been enjoying these like yellow toned blushes. I find that it's interesting to see if they work on my deeper complexion, and I have been able to find 1 or 2 that actually do. So that's been really nice addition to my blush collection in general. First off, I was disappointed because this blush literally did not have a label. Ma'am, where's the label? Understandably though, sometimes things get lost in the sauce. So I wasn't going to give it a down because of that. But then I went to apply these products, and particularly with this Honey Mustard shade, it was extremely ashy, barely showed up. It just didn't look like it was created by a black owned brand. And understandably, I'm not going to sit here and say that every product that a black owned brand creates has to work on a darker skin complexion, but I do think that it would behoove a black owned brand to consider their own complexion when they're creating all the things they're creating, right? So like if you're going to create a yellow blush, ensure that it actually works on your skin tone, because then you know it'll work on anybody else's, right? I wouldn't even be mad if like this is something that has to be built up. That's perfectly fine for me. I know some people prefer a blush that builds up, but this blush to me, regardless of how much I build it up and apply and pack on, it just doesn't stick. The binder that is in this, I think, is just not enough. And it's just the tone as well. I just don't like anything about this blush, unfortunately. And also the packaging is terrible to open. Even when I don't have claws on, I have difficulty opening up this packaging. And then the other one is Rude Nude. And I was stalking the swatches to ensure that this would be a like more natural toned blush on my skin tone. And although I do think that this is a natural tone blush on my complexion, I just don't like this formula at all. I unfortunately, I don't. Like I said, I don't find that the binders are really in there. And so this is just not something that I want to keep in my collection. And so once again, it's just a disappointment because I would have loved to have at least one thing from this brand that I absolutely loved, and I don't have it. And I don't think I'm going to be making any further purchases to find it for me. But I would love to hear if you found something from this brand that you love. I just don't think I'm going to be going down that road. Okay, so let's jump back to eyes. Now, if you've watched my channel, especially some of the more viral videos, at least from my channel, you know these were going to be here. These are the House Beauty High Power Pigment Paints. So the yellow one is in Citrine Matte, and this more purple-ish container is Rose Gold Shimmer. If you've seen my review, I did a review on this brand because I bought quite a bit of things from the relaunch of them at Sephora. Neither of these are opaque. Not a lick of opacity comes with these products. And for me, if you're going to consider something a high power pigment, it needs to have a lot of pigment. I feel like that's literally what the name says. High power pigment. I need pigment. There's absolutely no pigment. There's not. It is see-through. It is sheer. I tried it under primers. I tried it over primers. I tried it by itself to be an actual eyeshadow primer. I've tried it as cheek products. It doesn't work. I don't understand. I really don't understand, because literally the name says high power pigment and it is not that. So these currently are still in my collection. I don't really know what I'm going to be doing with these. I don't see a purpose. I really don't. And with this particular product, once again, I genuinely don't know who it could be useful for, because even if you're somebody who likes a sheer amount of coverage, you want coverage that is at least not patchy. And I find that because this does not have at least any form of opacity, you can't get a non-patchy application, whether you're using your fingers and putting on your cheeks, or whether you're using your fingers and putting on your eye, whether you're using a primer under or over. I used 2 different primers. I used my About Face primer, which is more of a drier eyeshadow primer, and then I also used my Natasha Denona, which is a little bit more liquidy and wet primer, unless you let it sit there and dry out a little bit. So I just genuinely don't know how to make these work, and I did not do that video with the intent of like trying to bash the brand. I did not do this video. I did not do that video with the intent of trying to bash the brand. I did it because I was so frustrated that I could not find a way to make this high power pigment work. Okay, let's keep it going. So another product that I'm actually extremely disappointed in is from Dominique Cosmetics. Now, I don't have a lot from this brand. I have like a lip liner, maybe a bullet lipstick, or like a lip gloss, and like maybe an eyeshadow palette. And then I picked this one up. This is a cream blush in the shade Natural Rose. I picked this up when BoxyCharm let people who did not have a subscription order from their like Boxy sale or whatever. This does not give any pigment, and I want to show you guys because I just don't understand. So, right, Natural Rose, it looks like it gives pigment, but when I put it on my skin, where'd the pigment go? Where did the pigment go? I don't understand how to use this. I really want this product to work because I think the actual shade, the tone, even the finish from what it should be, I've seen on other people. I really think this could be something that I would enjoy, but I can't seem to figure out how to get it to work. And that's why this is a disappointment. Once again, I don't think I should have to like find a way to make this work. I typically like to use my sponge. Once again, when I'm putting my base products on, I just use a different part of my sponge to do my cheek applications when it comes to creams. And I don't think this applies the best with that. I have seen some other YouTubers that do particularly have this product or something else in this particular range use a lot of brushes. I don't tend to gravitate towards brush application when it comes to my cream products. And maybe that's what I'm gonna have to do to make this particular product work. But once again, I don't find that I should have to do this, do that, jump there to make a product work. I think that the product should just work. It should just work. And even if it's a very sheer application with my sponge, it should be able to build on itself. And I found that it wasn't actually building on itself with the sponge and the pigment, but the sheen was building, and that's not what I wanted. And so that's been my difficulty with this. I think I actually might have decluttered this in my declutter video. I do want to go ahead and give this another shot. I am going to attempt, when and if I ever do clean my brushes, to use this with specifically the brush that I really enjoy from the Angie Hot Flashy collaboration. It's like a cheek brush, and that's been a really nice cheek brush for my actual cream blushes. So when I clean my brushes and that brush is available, I will try to reuse this particular shade with that product, and if it does work, then it will find its way back into my collection. But once again, I just genuinely don't think that I should have to finagle around to make something work. 2 other products for my cheeks that I was not able to make work for my complexion is this Natasha Denona My Dream Cheek Trio. I was extremely excited about this trio. I don't think this works the best. Now, this cream base, I actually do think that it works on my skin tone. It blends in beautifully. It is a little bit light, but it's not too bad. But this Dream Glow, I think, is extremely light. And then the cream blush, I just don't find that I get that pigment. Once again, when I was using this with a sponge. And once again, I don't think that I should have to use a brush to make a cream product work. I think that it should be able to build up with a sponge. Now, I guess in all fairness, I should give this product another go, specifically with brushes, to see if when I apply them with brushes, they do work on my skin tone. Because I did find that her particular eyeshadow palette in this range is phenomenal with the color arrangement and like the depth level that is presented there. I find that that is probably her most person of color friendly eyeshadow palette that she has actually released to date, in my opinion. So I really am kerfluffled that this cheek product trio isn't working, but like I said, I'm going to try once again. So I'm going to give myself 2 products to retest out, these 2, and see if I can make them work with brushes. If I can, I will graciously bring these back into my collection. I did spend my money on it, right? So I do want to get some use out of them, but it is disappointing and quite literally annoying to have to work around the product to make it work the way I want it to work. One thing I don't think I can make work at all is this collaboration. This is from Marvel and the Thor Love and Thunder collection. This is in the darker trio. It is like the peach glow one. This is not dark. I don't know what is going on with this, but each peach or orangey tone has a silver shimmer running throughout. So even though it may look like it's actually somewhat deep in here in pan, it comes off so much lighter on the complexion, and it's not person of color friendly, in my opinion. Not at all. Maybe a medium tan can get away with this, but I am far from a medium tan. So it's just disappointing. I eyed this for so long. I think I ended up getting this on like 2 times sale and maybe getting like 5 times the points when I made this order, but like it is extremely disappointing. Where is the eyeshadow palette for this? That should be in this basket. Hold on, I gotta find the hold on. Whoo child. Okay, so I actually found a couple more things that I wanted to talk about. So really quickly, because this is the only lip product, I find that I'm almost never really truly disappointed in a lip product, because at the end of the day, I can make a lip product work. So it's not a big deal, but I was slightly disappointed in these 2. Now, these are both from About Face, and it is in the shade Matte Clockwork and Matte Nudist Judas. Now, I did a lot, I feel, research going back and forth to see if this would be a tone and a shade that I would really enjoy. And I actually want to go ahead and swatch these. I still have that blush on, but you can't really see, so it'll be fine. I gotta sharpen this lip liner because it's dull. Okay, first off, this lip liner is not very easy to sharpen. I don't know why, but it's a very weird consistency. So I swatched the lip liner up here. Like I said, this is in the shade Nudist. No, that's the other one, Clockwork. And then I have Nudist Judas. And what I will say is that the Nudist Judas is not a very big disappointment, because at the end of the day, it has that. So this is Nudist Judas, and it's not super disappointing because it has that yellow undertone, and that's exactly what I wanted. But this one up here, Clockwork, is a disappointment because it's not really giving me that depth and dimension that I was expecting on my complexion. And this is the darkest brown lip liner that this brand has. I find a lot of brands have this issue where their darkest brown lip liner is literally my complexion or even lighter. Same with the one that I'm actually wearing right now. This isn't one that I bought this year, but from Dominique Cosmetics, this one is in the shade Nudie, and it's pretty much my complexion. And I don't understand why people think it's okay for that to be the darkest brown. So this right there, I don't know if you guys can see it, that is the Nudie. This up here is Clockwork, and this, So over here is Nudie from Dominique Cosmetics. This is Clockwork from About Face, and this is the Nudist Judas. So at least the Nudie has like a different undertone than me, so it gives some form of dimension. But this one is pretty much like a very similar yellow base, but because it is pretty much my skin tone, it blends in. And so there's a disappointment with these products, specifically really with this lip liner, because it's not giving me the sculpt or the dimension that you put a lip liner on for. And so, yeah, I mean, it may be a little petty, but for me, it was a disappointment because I keep having this issue where very few smaller brands push out enough darker brown lip products, specifically liners, for me to get a lot of use out of them. Yeah, I can finesse it, but like, who wants to continue with finessing these products? I would really love for an independently owned brand to release a brown lip liner that is dark enough for me. It would be very, very nice. Let me clean off my hands, and then we're gonna run through a couple of eyeshadow palettes that I felt like were disappointments for me. I believe I picked all of these up this year, but some of them I might have just talked about this year. But I'm pretty sure everything I picked up this year. Alrighty, so like I said, the Marvel and Thor collaboration, this whole situation was just a huge disappointment. Didn't even watch the movie, okay? Huge disappointment. Yes, I can get use out of some of these shades, but the texture and the thickness of the actual formula in here is just not the best. Specifically with the mattes, the shimmers are shimmers. And I don't have an issue with just getting shimmers, but I need something interesting about the palette. I need some textural variety. I need something. And this palette just didn't give it. I didn't love the undertones of the actual shades in here. Just overall disappointment. Would not recommend. Next, there are going to be some shocking brands here, but it is what it is. Sometimes you love a brand's product, sometimes you don't. Give me Glow. Now, I've bought a couple of things from the brand, but I never bought an eyeshadow palette because their stuff is expensive. This is the Pastel Dreams palette. Now, right around spring, summer, I was trying to pick up pastel palettes because I wanted to update my pastel palette video for people of color. I never actually got around to the physical video, but I did get around to actually testing out all of the products, right? And so this was one of the products that I tested out. And my issue with this is something that I ultimately had an issue with in another palette, but for a slightly different reason. There's absolutely no depth in this palette. And don't get me wrong, I understand the idea of having a pastel palette. I understand having the idea of a pastel palette and wanting it to be nice and airy and bright and all of that. I understand that completely. But at the end of the day, I love some form of depth. And even if it was just like a slightly deeper purple to deepen up all of these shades, that would have been enough for me. But they did not provide that. And so for that reason, this was a disappointment for me. Yes, of course, I can reach into any of the other palettes that I have. Yes, I can do very similar technique to what I did today, which is like literally pull an eyeliner and create like a faux liner effect. And I could use that as like a cream base and then apply that purple on top and it would look darker. I understand that I can definitely make that palette work for what I personally desire. And I understand that like I bought this knowing that that was going to be an issue, but truly because I hadn't bought any pastel palettes in so many years, I didn't really know that was going to be an issue, right? Because that was not a thought when I was purchasing this particular palette. But when I had it in my hands and I was creating looks, I was like, oh, well, it's missing this. Oh, well, it's missing that. And so that would be my run critique when it comes to that particular palette. As for the formula, I think the formula's okay. I've always thought the formula was okay. It's really the metallics that I feel like they're known for. Their metallic formula is really, really good. The matte formula also in this particular palette, because I think it is so white based, I think they had to use, because the matte formula in here is so white based, I feel like they used a different binder, and I feel as though this binder isn't the best. It doesn't really stick to my eyeshadow primer as much as I would love. So that is also another critique with that particular palette. It's not a love, but it is good. ish, whatever. Next is actually a weird one. So this is actually from Adept Cosmetics. So this was the first year I had tried Adept, and I pretty much was hooked ever since I tried them, right? And so this was just yet another palette to kind of check off the list. I finally was getting through pretty much collecting all of them. There's literally only one palette that I don't have that they have released that is still available to pick up, except for the 9 pan. I didn't pick that one up either. I didn't like that color scheme. But for this one, it's a disappointment because there's so many shimmers. I understand Adept is all about the shimmers. I get it. I completely understand it. But there is literally 2 mattes in this palette, and I can't get use out of both mattes. And for me, that is an extreme disappointment. I love building up my mattes, building up my crease, and because I enjoy Adept so much, I have kind of been okay with only having 2, maybe 3 mattes in a palette and making it work because their formula is just so good, both matte and metallic. And because they always throw in different textures in those mattes and those shimmers, I always think it's worth it. Now, there's definitely more texture I find in this particular palette than some of their other ones. And if you want to see a review on this, and I also did review their cheek palette at the same time, I will, of course, have that down below, hopefully. But that said, I don't like this palette, and it was a disappointment because I wasn't able to get use out of both of those mattes to kind of be okay with the compromise of buying an Adept Cosmetics palette and they don't have as many mattes as I particularly enjoy. Once again, I understand that I could reach into any of the other eyeshadow palettes that I have. I do have quite a few, but at the end of the day, I am one of those people. I sit down with one eyeshadow palette or maybe even 2, but I start my look with that mindset. I don't particularly like to reach for here, reach for there, reach for that. No. I always have a lot going on, you know, in my own personal life. In the house, there's a lot. And so it's just easier if when I sit down, I have the products ready to go so I can get the eye look done and do what I need to do afterwards. And so for me, having to kind of, it's just too much. It's too much for me, and I'm not about it. I'm not about it. Okay, so a surprise product that I didn't expect to put this in this video, honestly, when I sat down, I really didn't. But when I really thought about it, it had to come into this video. It was a slight disappointment. And this is the Natasha Denona Pastel palette. Now, in the time that I did this video, I said that I felt like I was able to get enough depth from this particular palette, but also I really enjoyed the variety and textures that this particular palette presented. You get her cream to matte, her normal matte, you get her metallics, and you get a couple of shimmers along with a few duochromes as well. And I do stand by that particular opinion. I do truly think that the variety and textures is really appealing, and you are able to get a slight amount of depth with this particular palette. But after this palette, I actually tried yet another pastel palette, and then I was like, oh, this is a little bit disappointing. It's a little bit disappointing because in that pastel palette, I had so much depth, and there was a smaller curation of colors, and I will make sure to have that in my best products of 2022. But just overall, to me, I felt like this could have given me even more depth. Specifically, once again, with that purple Bora, I don't really know what it says. This purple right here, I think that it could have been slightly darker, and especially because that one is a cream to powder. If it's slightly darker, then it will actually apply even darker on the eye and you'll be good to go. I want to say in my review of this particular video, I might have actually used a darker eye base to make it look even better, and that is definitely something that you can do. I have one from Give Me Glow, and you can literally put that black eye base and it will make all of the shadows that you actually put on your eye above it appear darker as well, and that is definitely something you can do. But for me, it's just like a, why do that when I have this and it gives me that and I don't have to do all of that? So that is the one thing I'm going to say with this. I still enjoy the quality. I still think it's a good palette. But after trying yet another pastel palette, I was like, well, that didn't hit as much as I thought it hit. You know, it happens sometimes. Alrighty, so I think there's only 2 more products. No, there's not. I think let's take a little bit of a break from the eyeshadow palettes and talk about the one product I turned and I saw and I was like, I got to talk about this. This is actually from ColourPop. Now, this is a highlighter. I have like 3 or 4 highlighters from this brand already, so this was not a new formula, and this is not a disappointment because of the formula. It's a disappointment because of the tone and the shade. So this is in the shade Ray Rider, and one YouTuber, Laura May Beauty, of course, had been raving about this shade. She was raving about the fact that it is a neutral kind of everyday highlighter, and it was glowing on her skin. Glowing. It was beautiful. And yes, I succumb to idiocy sometimes when I see a product beaming on somebody else's skin tone, and I'm like, sis, she's like 20 shades lighter than you. Chill out. But I don't say that until after I put it on my skin tone, and I'm like, that's why I shouldn't have bought this. So I'm disappointed because I'm stupid and I bought a shade that does not necessarily work. Now, I am keeping this in my collection to lighten up maybe darker highlighters, and this also does look beautiful on the center of my face because it is that light, but on the cheeks I think it just looks a little too much, and it's not for me. So this is a disappointment because I'm brilliant and did not pick the best shade, but the actual formula, all of that, great, but I felt I needed to put it out there in the event that you didn't see that roundup and you just saw that I picked it up. Maybe don't do it. Maybe don't do it. Okay, 2 more eyeshadow palettes to talk about. The Lunar Beauty Nude Prism. So I had very good time and quality experience, all of that, when it came to Lunar Beauty previous to this. Even the other product that I actually picked up in this order, love that product. It's literally next to my bed every time I go to lay down. But in this particular eyeshadow palette, I found that pretty much every shade in this top row does not show up on my skin tone. They start to show up in these last 2, but okay. Yes, the shimmers are beautiful, but these are neutral shimmers that I could have found anywhere else. And yes, this bottom row, like this milk tea, doesn't really show up, but the teas and everything else does. Now, it might have been a pressing issue. I don't really know what's going on, but to me, it just does not make sense to enjoy a palette, to use a palette where half of the shades don't work. And I mean, this could have been like an everyday neutral shadow palette for me because I've been really enjoying neutrals. So that's why I picked this palette up. I was like, this is Lunar Beauty. I've had really good quality. This is a no-brainer for me to choose to buy this. Then I bought it and I was like, why did I buy this? So yeah, honestly, I would not recommend this. I really wouldn't. I mean, like I said, I don't know if this is a pressing issue or a batch issue, or, you know, it really is because of how deep my skin tone is. But I found that this did not work. And I did use a variety of different primers with this to see if it was just a primer situation, but 'twas not. 'Twas not. In my opinion, it was just not a good palette that they released this time around. The last palette that I want to go ahead and talk about is this one right here, and this is the Glam Light Ice Cream Dream palette. Now, everybody was ripping a roaring about this particular palette and saying that it is the best eyeshadow palette when it comes to pastels, and the fact that it comes with browns and all of this. And I was like, okay, let's try it. I think this is okay. I think it's okay. I mean, it's okay. I mean, people were hyping this palette, this brand, everything up, and I got it. I mean, granted, you do get that depth. What is this shade? Chocolate really does provide that depth if you want a more neutral toned, or if you want to deepen up some of these more pastel tones. So I do appreciate it for that. You get those different textures with the metallics and the shimmers. You get light to dark, all of that. I appreciate it, but the formula is okay. Okay, so for me, the disappointment, particularly with this eyeshadow palette, was that everybody was hyping this up to be so good, and that this is like the top palette when it comes to pastel palettes. And for me, I just did not find that. And had I known now what I knew, Had I known then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have picked this particular palette up. Maybe the other ones, but like, I mean, it's fine. Either way, I do think I'm gonna go ahead and do that like video on pastel palettes, because I do think there is a room for discussion, specifically when it comes to what pastel palettes should look like and can look like on somebody of my skin tone, because there are quite a few people of my skin tone where like that's their vibes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you know? So knowing what is the best pastel palette I think could be truly helpful. But some of these I just think they were overly hyped, and it's like the formula is okay. Give Me Glow, Glam Light, I mean, I think they're fine, I really do. But I don't think any of those pastel palettes that I just mentioned are the best that I had particularly tried. There's one brand that I would recommend, but like I said, we will get to that in maybe a couple of days. Who knows when I'm going to be uploading my best of 2022, but I will be doing my best to get that up very, very soon. So yeah, I think I was able to kind of slowly bring in all of my favorites when it comes to beauty. I didn't talk about any like clothing or shoe or whatever have you favorites, or even book favorites. Let me know if you do want to hear some of those other favorites that I have, because I do have a variety of interests and those are some of them. I just really didn't want to make this video too much longer than it already became because of all of the stopping, starting, noise everywhere, stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be doing my absolute best to edit this very, very quickly and get this up before midnight tonight. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, like I said, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be tomorrow. That will be my last must-have, must-gag, I think, of the year, which will be really interesting. So yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow with that. Bye guys.